The greatest all-in-one PowerPC Macintosh of all time is also the one that gets the least love. Sure, everybody loves the cute, colorful iMac, but the eMac G4 is the iMac G3 perfected, soulless, but perfected. And today, we're gonna save this one from the brink of catastrophic failure. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy breathing new life into the unwanted rejects of collectible computing, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. The G4 eMac was introduced on April 29th, 2002 as a G4 all-in-one Power Mac with a wonderful 17-inch flat CRT display. Everything about it was bigger, better, faster. This thing is 50 frickin' pounds. But the thing is, the G4 eMac was not the successor to the G3 iMac. In January 2002, Apple released the actual iMac G4, this iconic thing. This eMac was meant for education. Get it? The iMac G4 launched at $1299 for the bare minimum base model. The same thing inside of an eMac sold for $1099. And $200 cheaper sure added up when you're kitting out a whole computer lab, not to mention having screens impervious to children. And I think that this might be one of the coolest and most underrated Power Macs. I mean, just think of the Linuxes we could run on this thing. The only problem is this one is succumbing to the Achilles heel of eMacs: bad capacitors. So today we're going to take this thing apart, see if it's salvageable, and if it is, get it back up and running again, and back up to its former glory. Now, like all good computers, iFixit has multiple guides for taking the eMac apart. Sorry, I don't have as nice of a towel as Adrian does. Oh my god, it's heavy. Everybody always asks where I get these screwdrivers from. It's Fantic. Look at this gross color RAM. It's like baby puke yellow. Detach this power supply board here. We'll take off this heatsink too, because why not repaste it? Grody. Alright, so we've got one extremely bulged and leaking capacitor right here. Obviously we're going to take that one off, but I think I have enough capacitors on hand to replace all of these. And we'll be using my new Fantic T1 Max cordless soldering iron, who are also conveniently the sponsor of today's video. Let me pull these capacitors off real quick, and then I'll tell you why I actually like this thing so much. Yeah, luckily this one exploded out the top as it is designed to do, and did not actually leak out the bottom, so the board is pretty clean. Yeah, I really like this Fantic iron. It has the temperature control up at the top here, heats up extremely quickly, and this intro set that they sent me even comes with a drawer to hold additional tips, although I like the chiseled tip quite a lot. Alright, I've got two of these replaced, no problem. The rest of these ones here are also the 6.3 volt 1800, and these ones are 16 volt 1000, which I think I have some of those in a drawer. It is quite easy to use this Fantic T1. You just hold down the button for 3 seconds, blinks red while it heats up to your desired temperature, and then turns green once it's ready. And conveniently, this charges with USB-C. Yeah, I really like this Fantic T1 Max cordless soldering iron, especially because, well, I've been looking for a cordless soldering iron for some time because I'm often soldering crap inside my old Jeep Cherokee. Plus, it's a pretty incredible deal because it's well under $100 on Amazon. $79.99 gets you not just the iron, but a whole kit, including a stand, extra tips, which are in this drawer, including some nice fine tips for really tiny soldering, which I don't actually have from my other soldering iron. Super fast heating, 7 seconds to get to your operating temperature, both corded and wireless mode, 6 levels of easily selectable temperature, and, well, as you can see, it works great. So definitely check out Fantic in the links down in my description below. I'll link right to this soldering iron and to the screwdriver kit that y'all keep asking me about. I'm really excited that Fantic is sponsoring today's video. Please sponsor me some more, Fantic. I love your stuff. All right, I have replaced all of these capacitors, including the surface mount capacitors. There's quite a few of them, except for these two, because I can't seem to find them in my drawer. I'm sure they're fine. Let's get rid of this old crusty thermal compound. All right, I have it reassembled enough to test fire. I'm not going to plug the power button in. I'm just going to short the wires. Uh-oh. Ooh, CRT initialized. It chimed! Haha! All right, well, good news, bad news. The good news is the recap was successful in that the board still works. The bad news is, well, it didn't solve the screen issue, so we're going to have to look at the analog board. I mean, we definitely needed to replace these caps, though. Oh yeah, I definitely see some bulging capacitors on the analog board here, which incidentally was a huge pain to get off. All right, so I've been removing capacitors from the analog board here and noting them down. So far, I have 2 in stock that I need, and I'm not even halfway through taking all these capacitors off. That bodes well. I guess we're doing things the smart way and testing these with a multimeter. Surprise, surprise, Mr. Puffy here is bad. Alright, well, some good news. I've pulled out our sacrificial Memorex DVD player, and I did find some of the caps we need on its power supply board, and they tested good. And look at that. Just like that, we have a working eMac, and all it took was a quick visit to your friend of mine, Steve from Mac84.
Yay!
Where I liberated one of his working eMacs. Yeah, I decided to go the smart route and I put in an order for the correct capacitors to recap our eMac here. And since it's going to take a couple days for those to come in, we're going to take a look at Steve's pristine eMac G4. I'm sure that's fine. Excitingly, this eMac is the top of the line eMac, the 1.42 gigahertz. If you ever find an eMac and you want to check these specifications, they're right here on the inside of the drive door as kind of a hipster lip tattoo. Neat. And if we want to get a sense of this thing's performance, let's try Classic Cube for PowerPC, which of course is a modern reimplementation of Minecraft Classic for, well, very underpowered machines. Yeah, check it out. That is extremely smooth and playable. Volume works on this thing just fine. These speakers sound surprisingly good. I turned frame limiting off and we are seeing 209 frames per second standing still, down to 150 to 200 when we're moving around. So Classic Cube, totally playable, totally awesome. Now obviously you know we're going to try to boot some form of Linux on this thing. I don't want to install it on here because this is Steve's machine and I don't feel like taking his hard drive out and possibly breaking his lovely top spec eMac, but we can try to get to a live environment. All right, hold down Option to get to the boot menu and the little CD icon with a penguin on it. That is Adderley Linux, and it should be the KDE live environment. Adderley being one of the few Linux distros that still compile a PowerPC 32-bit version, and incidentally, one of my favorite Linux distros. Okay, well maybe Adderley doesn't like this thing's video card, which is weird because it works on an iMac G4. Why don't we see if the Debian 12 net install CD actually at least boots up into the installer. Beautiful GNU. Oh yeah, look at that, we are in the Debian installer. That's pretty sweet. Of course, I'm not actually going to do this install because I don't want to nuke Steve's hard drive. So that is the eMac G4, a very interesting machine that's often overlooked and very often plagued by crappy capacitors. I'm very grateful to Steve who let me borrow this one at the last moment so I could at least show off a working eMac. And I'm also very confident that we can get my eMac back into a working state. My order of capacitors from Mouser has already shipped, so as soon as I get this back together, assuming it still works, I definitely want to try installing some form of Linux on it. Debian 12 looks very promising. But that'll do it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing, please subscribe down below. And thank you very much for watching. And a special thanks to Alex Hoffman, Alex the Rat, Andrew Nicholson, April White, Chris Biggs, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, Control-Alt-Reese, Darren Johnstone, Dave's Garage, Drew Hamlin, Eduardo Fonseca, 3 Hours 9, Frodo Jedi, Gaspar Heller, George Rojansky, Graham, Greg from Rutk Mods, Harris Brody, JS, James Fryman, James Laurie, Jason Pepas, Camille Rakowski, Lyle Truid, Matthew Crowell, Nick Daniels, Oh It's Just Jose, Paul Spencer, Ryan, Scott Cedarbaum, Scott Thompson, Steve Salavan, Tom Woodfin, Unknown Soldier 41, Veronica Explains, and Xantronics Industrial, who are my highest tiered patrons and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible.